Okay, hi. It's me, Morg. Um, so I'm streaming for the first time. This is going to be a little music production stream. Um, Actually, I'm just going to show how I'm going to make some of my tracks. Oh yeah, I can see it's working right now. I have my little laptop next to me so I can see if something's not going wrong, or I can even read your comments here. Yeah, so I'm going to show you today how I'm going to produce some tracks, or how I make most of my tracks. I actually had a few, I say way too early, way too often. Had something in mind what I can do. So I have a MIDI folder here on my desktop with a whole bunch of MIDIs. And I actually picked one, didn't make progressive house in quite a while, and I'm going to show you how I usually make a progressive house song. So first off, I'm opening Silent One. I have a bunch of self-made presets here. Most of the time I'm going with, where is it here, Brazil Plus. So as you can hear it, wait, yeah, right now. So as you can hear, it's very nice for progressive house sounds. As the name suggests, it's kind of inspired by deadmau5 song Brazil. And yeah, so this is usually the preset I'm going with if I start to make a progressive house track. I sometimes change the presets a bit and layer a lot of stuff, but you will see all of that in the stream, probably. Yeah, so let's just start by listening to the MIDI first. It actually came from a little jazz improvisation I made. I think I can play this one for you back then. So this is an idea I have in mind around like 3 months, 4 months, I don't know exactly. But it kind of sounded like this on the piano. Wait, it's a bit too high. So I think you can see the idea behind the whole track. The chord progression basically is in. So it's just going upwards chromatically, like from to this chord to this one and back again to, yeah. So this is just the basics I'm working with. The melody also remained like this. And yeah, this is basically the whole thing. I did an example for this a while back then. I'm trying to replicate right now. By the way, I use Clip, or however you pronounce it, or Clip it, I don't know, for a lot of my VIP stuff. And this is what it sounded like. Yeah, I didn't save it back then because it was just a little VIP, little thing I made in, I don't know, I think about an hour, a bit less than an hour. I'm not trying to replicate it one by one, but to make the track kind of on this vibe again. Yeah, so let's just start with this. As you should know, especially music producers, a very important thing about electronic music is sidechaining. There are a bunch of different techniques for sidechaining for everyone who doesn't know what sidechaining means. It usually means, basically it means the instruments go quieter as the drums come in. This kind of gives like whoop, whoop, whoop effect, not exactly like this one, but I'm gonna show it to you. Here we go. It sounds, so instead of sounding like this, it's going to sound like this. There are a bunch of different techniques you can do. You can actually sidechain, meaning you can put a trigger on a channel. The kick would be very great here, and put it like the kick is going to wait a second. So the instruments are going to be quieter every time the kick hits. What I'm doing here is I use a gate, actually limiter as a gate. What a limiter does, it kind of regulates the loudness of a song. So as you can hear, as I'm turning it up and down, you can hear the different loudness. It has a bit to do how a compressor works, and I think I'm maybe covering this one in another stream. I'm going to explain not a lot of, but some technical details here, because this is also a stream how I'm going to produce everything and trying to, yeah, maybe also inspire a bunch of people to make music on their own and just give a little tips or something. Or maybe again I have the chat open, so if you want to, you can also give me a few tips if you say, hey, you're doing a pretty shitty job here, so just let me know. What I'm doing here is I'm using this gate, as you can hear, to make it a bit bouncy. The reason why I'm doing this is because it makes the kick come a bit more alive. It gives the kick more room, so when no instrument is playing, you can hear the loud and very clear kick drum. Let's use one, for example. I use this pack a lot. It's what it's called. Let me check here. Yeah, I'm not going to pronounce that. This sample pack right here, and I use this in a bunch of different songs. Not every time, but very often. And this one I think would be a very fitting kick. Let's just try it, how it sounds. Sounds a bit weird. It doesn't sound very bouncy. Maybe I'm going to pitch it down a bit. That's a little bit better. Shortening would help a bit. Let's have a listen. No, it doesn't help at all. I think it even made it a bit worse. Also, very nice, I think, still free sample pack. I got it free a few years ago. Is the Marcus, I'm not going to pronounce this either, pack. Just look for it. It has around 500, I think it was 500 different kick samples, yeah, 500. But also very nice. Some of these are, yeah, a bit flat, a bit boring, but some are very nice. I don't know which one are nice or which one are bad. I just clicked random samples here. Oh, I think I like this one. Oh, I think I like this one even more. Nah, it's better. Yeah. Okay, so this one is the kick drum, especially in electronic music, is always like the basis, the basic thing of your track. It's like a metronome telling people how to dance. It's electronic dance music, so people should dance to it. And yeah, that's why a kick drum, I think it's a very important thing. I think the drums are even the most important part of a track. That everything sounds consistent and like a unit, and it really wants to make people go dancing, moving. Again, especially in a genre that has the word dance even in its name. So yeah, you can hate me for this one, but I use sound goodicizer on the kicks because yeah, it makes the sounds sound good. Yeah, and okay, it sounds very flat right now. A bit of EQing can also help. I'm not 100% satisfied with the kick right now, but I think it should work for now. What's a bit more important even than the kick, no, I'm kidding, everything is important, are the claps or the snare or whatever you're going to use. Again, there are a bunch of very good sample packs out there. Also the CJP sample pack has a lot of very nice, I think not that nice kick drums, but very nice flap sounds. And yeah, here's a little trick I sometimes do. So you can sound like this. It sounds a bit, it doesn't sound very fitting, a bit flat, like everything just comes in at 1 second, and yeah, it sounds a bit dull, a bit too mechanical even. And what you can do, I have a shortcut to disable the grid, is just press backspace on the keyboard. And you can shift it a bit back. So let's just listen to the drums alone. Way more fitting. What kind of happens here is, as you can see, the peaks of a clap are going to come in exactly the same time the peak of the kicks kick in. So I think that's what happens. That's how I explained it to myself. To make it a bit more fitting, so as you can see, I turn up the quick fade. It's getting shorter and shorter. I usually don't like it if I keep on this long, if I sustain the sound. So I try to shorten them up a bit, like this. I think this is good. It might be a bit too far away. Like this. Okay. And another very important thing I'm doing a lot of times is layering. I think I can even show you some of the some of the tracks I'm working on right now. Let me check. This one would be a bit better. Yeah. So again, same thing here. Put them a bit forwards. Shorten them. And that's another thing you can do, or what I always do. Things that have the same purpose, I try to link them to the same channel. So like this one and this one. Route them to the same channel because both are claps, so if I want to do something with them, I can equally work on them. For now, I'm just trying to make one of the claps sound good. One thing I just want to tell you again, it's also not to use a bunch of similar claps, but use claps that complement each other. meaning that you try to get the best sound out of each clap and try to always have in mind what you're going to do with them. So for example, I have these two claps, as you can hear. And you can hear one of them sounds a bit thicker, but also a bit more down-pitched. So I'm trying to use this one for the mid frequencies. Oh, and also the first time using an EQ, or the first time you use an EQ for something, try to turn off a monitor and just go along with your ear. Listen to your ear and not to some visual graphics on a computer, because it needs to sound good to you and not to the computer. Oh, and also one thing, it would be good if you can use a limiter every time on the bottom of a channel. Simply for one simple reason. So if everything peaks above this threshold, it's automatically get cut off, so you don't have to worry about any clipping in your track or something. It just works. Another good plugin I could recommend, which I can use right now, is the where is it? Right, the Head Crusher. It's a distortion plugin, which works a lot like other distortion plugins. But like this one in particular, because for one it's free, as the name said, and it sounds very powerful, so you can get very good effects out of very little user input. So as you can hear, it sounds way richer in sound and way better, in my opinion. Maybe even cut off the top part a bit, because we still have another clap. And let's listen. It sounds even a bit too long, I think. Parametric equalizer. Let's have a listen here. And let's make just this clap again. And try to bring up the most important things of our clap. And what I'm doing here right now is I'm looking for frequencies in which it sounds good, or which might even be annoying to the listener, so it doesn't have any strange sounds which would interrupt something. But I also look for frequencies which are very well sounding. I don't know how to say it otherwise. I think this one sounds good. Top part even a bit higher. And I'm using a low pass filter here, so that nothing after this frequency comes behind this one. So now let's listen both together. That sounds nice. Thing you can always do is use a stereo enhancer, especially for claps or synths. I'm going to work on this one in a second, but let's stay on the drums for a bit. So what a stereo enhancer does, it's basically stereo enhances the sound. As you can hear, it's way more stereo, it sounds way wider. I suggest to you that you might want to use it for everything that's more in the high frequency range. As you can hear, the high mid, and the treble. try not to use it on the bass frequencies, however, because this will very often result in muddy sounds and everything sounds a bit weird and phased off, and it will simply not sound good. So use it maybe in the mid frequency range or the high frequency range. Don't always use it, by the way, so it's just a nice thing you can always start with if you have no idea how your clap is going to sound. You can always start with a stereo enhancer. It will, most of the time, especially for high drums, high frequency drums, it will always make the sound a bit, not always, but 99% of the times will improve the sound of it. Let's have a listen again. Yeah. Let's listen with a synth together. So just noticing we're still missing a head here in the track. Let's add one. I think I'm going to use like a bit of this old school 808, 909 kind of hi-hat. Yeah, like this one. But way shorter, not this long stretch, just a very short clip, like just a tss. Yeah, this one. Maybe a bit quieter. Yeah, again here, so the reason why I'm also always using a high pass filter is simply just to, yeah, it's just to eliminate the low frequencies if there are any. So sometimes it happens if you record a microphone and your microphone is not that good, you never know who recorded all these samples. And sometimes it can happen if you have bad equipment, you have some microphone rumbling in the bass part. So this is why it's always a smart idea for high frequency kind of things to use a high pass filter. So just you can, 666 Hertz, very nice. So just you can eliminate all risk of bass rumbling. Maybe even reverb. Some claps would also be very nice. So I didn't want to have too much reverb on it, so it would sound a bit out of place. Again, especially with the drums, I'm trying to sound everything fitting, as if everything could be in the same room at the same time, like it would be played on a physical drum machine. So it's always the kind of style I'm going for. And that's why I also try to keep just a little bit of reverb, not a lot. So just that it has a little bit more, but not too much where it sounds out of place or annoying. I think this one is a good mix. Oh, and also one little trick I can show you to make drums a little bit more interesting. So you're gonna clone this clap, reverse it, and put it a few seconds before it will kind of add a little riser to your clap. Let's check if this one is good. Yeah, a bit more. A bit too much. Yeah. Here again, shorten the input a bit so it doesn't sound too much out of place. Also make it a bit quieter if you want. So just to add a little bit of variety into the basic drums. A bit too long, I think. Yeah, it sounds a bit like crap right now, but it's just work in progress. We're working here since 24 minutes already. Okay, but let's make the bass line. For the bass line, I think I'm also going to use Silent One. There are a whole bunch of very good plugins to make nice bass lines, but let's make one from scratch. Silent One is by the way my favorite plugin. It's very powerful. It's very powerful sounding. So you can also do a lot of very nice sounds within just a few seconds. Instead of like plugins like Massive. I also like Massive a lot. I don't use it this much right now, unfortunately. But I like it. But I prefer Silent because everything you want to know, every parameter you want to control, you have it just here right inside. And yeah, that makes it a very nice synth. So let's make the bass line from scratch. Right now we're just having a sine. I think it's a good idea to start with a saw wave and pitch it an octave down. Use even a bit of detuned saw. The reason I'm using a saw for a bass right now is because I'm going to use a low pass filter on this one. And as you can hear, it sounds way better. The reason why I'm not using just a sine wave, also not for sub basses, I always use a low pass saw wave. It adds a little bit of excitement to the track. I'm going to show this to you in a few seconds in this one, Streets of Tokyo, which was a song I made not that very long ago. I'm still making. I think I started about a month ago, but I'm going to show you later on what it did there. So yeah, it adds a little bit of excitement. So if we would change this one to a pure sine wave, you would hear it. It sounds a bit boring, so that's why I'm using the sine too. And not the sine, the saw wave. Another thing you can do, especially in progressive house synths, it's a very good idea. Using this mod envelope to modify the cutoff. You can hear if I turn up the decay a bit. Kind of gets this little pluggy effect, which sounds very good in my opinion. I get a little bit of attack, just a bit. So it's better with this one. And it's also used distortion on this. A bit too much. Just to make it a bit more aggressive, a bit more louder sounding. And also a bit thicker. Some Q. And now let's sidechain this again. Put the limiter onto this. Right here. And also, if you're also using FL Studio and try to sidechain the same way I do, always put the saturation a little bit down, because if you don't make anything with the saturation, it adds this little clip sounds effect, this little clipping to it, you maybe can hear it. So as you hear this, now this almost like yeah, like this in the high frequencies, it will sound a bit odd, especially in the bass part. Especially for a bass line. You could also use some EQ. This might want to be even a little bit too bass heavy. So that's why I'm also pushing up the mid frequencies a bit. And two things you can actually do to improve your bass. Improve the bass to make it a bit louder and a bit more aggressive. One way would be the traditional way, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is just adding distortion. Again, here I use the head crusher. But also this is one a little trick which Virtual Riot, I think it was Virtual Riot, showed in a stream. You could also use vocodecs for this one. For everyone who doesn't know what vocodecs is, it's basically a vocator. So it uses the sound of a synthesizer, or let's say it was actually made to use the sound of a synthesizer and no, to use the sound of a voice and put it together with the synthesizer to create like this robot Daft Punk sounding voices. That's actually what it was intended for. I can hear it right now. But here I have a preset which I made, which is called Big Fat Bass, and it should make the sound a little bit more. Okay, now it's clipping, as you can see here. It makes the sound a bit more thicker, but I also think it takes a little bit too much away. Let's tweak it a bit. Yeah. So this one, I didn't showed you the way how to use it with traditional distortion. So actually, it's just the same process. Use your distortion plugin of choice. I use Head Crusher very often. Here again, put up a drive, select, oh my god, it's clicking everywhere. Or maybe don't use Head Crusher on this one. Let's just use Fastest, which is a stock FL Studio plugin. So as you can hear, it also adds a little bit of aggression to your sound, makes it a bit more aggressive. But I think I'm going to stick with vocodecs because it kind of emphasizes the bass sounds a bit more. Yeah. So let's listen everything together. So I think I'm going to delete this one after the stream. Basically, this one was also just to show you how I usually make a progressive house track. Let's see if I can come up with a good idea in the next stream to work on this one. So not just start from scratch, but basically make a few things earlier that it doesn't sound like utter garbage. Yeah, a very essential thing for progressive house is the use of pad synthesizers. So you can add a bit of ambience. Here I have Eternal Flame. It's also a self-made patch for Silent One. So as you can hear, it kind of has this a bit of ambient vibe going on. So yeah, I'm going to use this because I can make the sound a little bit more richer by adding pads. You can always make the sound more rich sounding if you're using a pad synth in your track. And what I'm basically doing here is I don't want any short notes played here. Oh, that's a bit too high. I just want to have the basic chords played in the background. So as you can see here, these are this is a G sharp 7th chord, G sharp major 7, followed by F sharp. Yeah, right, an F sharp major 7. Sorry if I cannot come up with the names this early. Actually, I'm a German, so this is why I need to think first what's the chord and then translate it to English again in my mind. And here we have yeah, you can look it up if you want. I think it's also not important what chord is played here. At least it's not important right now for the production. I can maybe make a video or a stream one day how to make good chord progressions. But this one, yeah, just for now, accept it the way it is. Oh. It sounds a bit too high. The important thing of a pad sound is that you can cover the mids very well, the mid and the bass sound, so that the pad synthesizer has more of a supportive, role instead of a melodic role. So you just want to have it playing a little bit in the background just to fill up the ambience, fill everything that's not filled by your main synthesizer, by your main instruments, just to make the sound a little bit more richer. I think we can add a bit of cut-off here. Turn on the resonance. Yeah, by the way, I can use the cutoff filter without actually doing anything on my mouse. You can tweak almost, not tweak, you can link almost every parameter of your plugin to a MIDI device. In this case I use the Akai LPD8. As one of the MIDI devices I have here, and I just tweaked some features to it, linked some features to it, for example the cutoff, so I can. It's very good for jamming, so if you just play around and on your piano, so you don't have to go back to the computer every time you want to do something new, so you can just tweak on, just tweak the knobs and it would sound very well. So let's have a listen again. Also again here to add the ambience, to fill up the ambience, you can also use a stereo enhancer. And reverb. Reverb is basically the fairy dust of the music industry, so you can put it, especially here in pad synths, like everywhere, and it will sound good. So everything that needs to sound ambient, just put reverb on it and it will sound very well. What I'm doing here right now is I'm trying to reduce the rumble. You can, because of course, if you add reverb, it will also put reverb on everything, so even the bad sounds. So that's why I use the Fruity Convolver here. It's basically the reverb I always use for pad synths. So, and I honestly don't know how exactly it works, but basically there's a tutorial for this on the channel of Fruity Loops. But what it basically does, it's acting like a reverb. Like a reverb plugin. I can turn it off and on again so you can hear the difference. So of course it's a very subtle difference because I have already a lot of reverb on this plugin itself. Yeah, and use a parametric EQ again. Remove some of the sub-frequencies. Add a bit more in the bass and low mids. And also turn down the highs so you get a nice bandpass filter here. So not everything from the sub comes in, not everything from the top comes in, but the mid-range is pretty much covered. Again, add a limiter, a bit of side chaining, and you're good to go. So let's have a listen here. Yeah, I think it sounds pretty well. Well, so the pad sound itself, the song itself sounds a bit... I know there's something about it right now that I don't really like, so this is also the reason why I have a MIDI folder. It very often happens to me that I got a very nice idea, very nice chord progression or something. I try to make something in FL Studio and it just totally does not fulfill my expectations, so I save the MIDI and delete the actual data, because as you can see, you already have shortcuts for 10 projects. And I think if you have, for each MIDI, let's say I would have for each MIDI file here one project, it would add a lot of memory to my hard drive, but also it would confuse me a lot on what projects actually have the potential to be good and which projects simply do not. So this is the reason why I have a MIDI folder where I have a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, so let's take a listen. Let's remove it. Simply remove this one from existence. I think we worked about 48 minutes on it. 84 minutes. So let's listen to something I made a while not too long ago. It's still a track I'm working on, so I think I can explain a little bit on this. It's not 100% finished right now, but I think it's showing off very well the basic vibe this track is going to be. You may notice on my channel, if you are watching some of my latest videos, I go more into this lo-fi kind of music style. And this one is not lo-fi, to be exactly, it's more of house, but it's not like classical rave, let's party, EDM house. It's more of a depressing, yeah, you can say depressing kind of house. So in this whole sad boys tune and vibe. So let's just have a listen. So this is the track. Basically right now I worked on it for about, let's have a look, 6 hours and 27 minutes. Yeah, oh, no, 27 minutes, okay. So what does everything make here? So let's just break this down a bit in detail. Not too much, not too much detail, but just a bit. So first you have this basic chords which were played in. As you can see, it's so a bit quantized, of course. It's also heavily modified, and not that heavily modified, but a bit of a, yeah, I don't know how to say it, but I used a bunch of effects to make it sound a bit like this, using only the raw sound of a FL Studio native Rhodes. It would sound like this one. So as you can hear, it sounds a little bit flat and a little bit dull. So what I did here is I first off added do you actually have this noise? Yeah, this is also one thing I'm going to show you later, the isotope vinyl. It's a very nice plugin for lo-fi kind of sounds if you want to make it sound a little bit more old school, old-fashioned. It's very nice, but I'm going to show you how exactly this one works in another stream. So yeah, let's just have a look at this one itself. So you can hear it sounds a little bit flat, a little bit dull. It doesn't have much emotion in it. So first off, I used an EQ, an equalizer, just to give it this band pass kind of thing, and turned on everything that's not in the mid-range or mid to bass range. Added also a little bit of reverb, also a filter, stereo enhancer, and the limiter. And here we go. So yeah, this is basically the main thing that plays in the background of the track the whole time. The drums. Tried not to use the usual EDM formula with kick, snare, kick, snare. I left out the first snare, so you just have one snare or clap at a time. As you can see, a bunch of layering, a bunch of different claps. Also a hi-hat here, which is the ice hi-hat. It's also a stock FL Studio sound, and I think it sounds very well for claps actually if you can layer it with them. It kind of adds a little bit to the ambience of a track. So let's have a listen. And this is basically everything. Also the 808 are a surprise. It's actually two 808s. You just got bamboozled. So one for a very deep kick sound, and the other one more in the high frequencies, and both play together, make a very smooth sound. Yeah, this is what I want to show you, the bass line, which I talked about earlier. Here again I used a new FL Studio, a new silent plugin, a new silent patch made from scratch. And here you can see I added the saw wave instead of a sine wave. I also played it together with another sine, so just that you have this consistent sound and rich sound. And the other advantage, as you can hear, is if you turn on the cutoff, it sounds different. So it adds a little bit of variety into your track. Here again I used the pads. Self-made patch again. So by the way, I use, for almost all my tracks, I use 90% of the time completely self-made from scratch, my own patches for this one. Not only for this one, for like almost every track. And they sound actually quite nice, in my opinion. Maybe I should release a sample pack someday. I don't know. Here again, I used this little ARP, so I improvised a little bit on my tiny keyboard in front of me. It's it's an LPK 25 for everybody interested. Just a very tiny keyboard I put in front of me so I can improvise some melodies on it while the track's still playing, because my big main keyboards are actually standing next to me. I think I uploaded on my Twitter a pic of my setup, so you can check it out there if you want. But yeah, this is basically how it works, and this keyboard is here so you can improve, so I can jam while the track's playing. Here again, I use two different kind of sounds to make it a bit sound like one unit. This is a bit more bubbly sound, to be a bit more in the high in the high mids or low treble range, and this one to actually peak through the highs. So as you can hear together, they give a pretty nice result. Add a little drum fill here and there just to make it a bit more creative, a bit more, add a bit of variance to the track, and a bunch of FX. I also used a lot of reverb on the effects. I kind of wanted to make this track be flowing a bit like, yeah, actually a little bit like an ocean or something, or like a beach where waves just come in and go back. And that's kind of the feeling I wanted to create with this track. Like this ever-moving cycle of movement, and something that's just comes in briefly and fades away again. And this is also how you can use reverb, so just make rising sounds. I think you can hear it very well right here. So it just comes in for a brief second and then takes time to go away again. Also used here, again, yeah, some drums again. Also in the same technique, so I don't give it a direct attack. I may turn off the volume now. So you hear it would come just like instantly, and I wanted to give it a little bit of time just to come in first and then go away basically instantly. And that's why I used, why I did this especially here in this section. I did also the same thing with the hi-hat, just to introduce itself and then instantly go away. Kick drum, as I said again, it's like a metronome, playing every time on the beat. Yeah, and that's how far it got right now. You can also always add a little bit of variation into your track, a little bit of variety, if you play with a cut-off from time to time. And I think the stream is almost over. I think I maybe can also show you a bit of a track which I'm going to release in a few days actually, or a few days or weeks, so you can listen to it a little bit. Yeah, so you can just have a listen into a small section of it. Well, let's skip ahead a bit. You will hear it in a few weeks anyway, and I don't want to spoil all the fun right now. So yeah, that's my track so far. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you enjoy. As I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to stream as much as I can right now. Try to make it one time a week, and it will be usually the day after Monday, Thursday. Usually it will be Thursday around this time. Simply because I'm going to university and I have nothing to do, so I can sleep next day. So this is basically the reason why it will be mostly this time around. Yeah, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I can see you again next week. and have a nice day. Bye.